This is the reality of trucking. It's the Trucker Ray Podcast. Coming to you from somewhere in North America. Here he is, Trucker Ray. Woo!
Hey everybody, it is Trucker Ray, and welcome to another edition of the Trucker Ray Podcast. It is episode number 5, and I know we've been away for a little bit. We were working on some videos. We took a little bit of a break from the YouTube channel to do some 4 episodes of the podcast, and then I didn't receive very good... Let's just say, because I took a break from my YouTube channel, I had a lot of subscribers that dropped off, and that was very, very disappointing. And it was not because I didn't want to do the videos anymore. It's because I needed to take a bit of a break. I had injured my right shoulder, so I needed to heal. When I do my editing inside the truck, and for those of you that are listening for the very first time, we're not sitting in a studio somewhere in a nice chair. We're sitting in the back of our sleeper in our truck in Rio Rico, Arizona. In the sleeper, this is where we're doing the podcast, right out of the truck. This is why you get the reality of trucking, not only on my videos, but also on the podcast, because we're right living in the truck. So, because I sit on the edge of this bed and work on my videos, I don't have a dinette set up in here. Way back when, I used to have a dinette. Boy, was that ever nice when I was with the days of I-Haul. I had a nice dinette in the Volvo that I had. It was actually quite comfortable. The only thing I didn't like about that, it was sleeping on the top bunk was really, really uncomfortable because I always had the dinette set up. But you have to have the good with the bad, and I guess overall it was nice because the dinette was very comfortable to do any kind of editing on. And for as long as I've been doing these videos, which has only been, I think, 12 years, maybe going on 13, I don't even know anymore. I think it's like... I started in 2012. March 2012, I started making videos. So... Anyway, to get back to the point, I needed to take a break from the videos because there was one video that I needed to get done, and I ended up having a day off, and I was sitting on the edge of my sleeper with my arm in a certain position, editing a video for literally like 6 straight hours. And I really didn't notice the effect of what happened to me until that, I think it was the next day, where I could barely move my right shoulder. And I'm like, oh, this isn't good. And then I also realized that I couldn't sleep at night because I couldn't get into a comfortable position. So I thought, I really need to find a way to heal this shoulder. And I tried to do other editing. And good luck with that, because I'm not left-handed when it comes to the mouse. I use my right hand, so I didn't have another option. I did try using the mouse with the left hand. Good luck with that. That didn't work out very well. So... I made a decision that, hey, you know what, maybe we need to take a break from the videos, and what can we do in the meantime to make people happy and provide them some content? Let's put together a podcast. And you know what, it has received some really good response. I mean, it does take time for the podcast to reach its wide audience worldwide and wherever. I was doing okay on the site as well, on the YouTube channel as well, but I received a lot of backlash from a lot of my even friends, people that I call my friends. They even, excuse me, told me that they weren't going to be listening to it because they weren't into podcasts. And I was a little bit disheartened by that. I thought, a friend would support a friend. But you know what? Hey, that's just me. And I did receive that negative response. But I went with it anyway. And you know what? I really enjoyed it. And I think the podcast has been doing very, very well. I've had some very good guests on. I've got Trucker Glen on there doing the Trucker's Corner at the end of the broadcast, and he's enjoying it, and we're having a lot of fun. And these are the days of old for me, when I used to be on a mic and I used to do a music show. So doing a talk format is a little bit different, but I really enjoy it. I really do like it. So, because of the backlash, because of all the subscribers that dropped off my YouTube channel, I decided, you know what, maybe I need to just put these videos aside, because if I don't have even the little bit, the smallest bit of support. I mean, I did have support. I need to correct myself on this one. The dedicated YouTubers out there, and they showed their colors a little bit later, how amazing they are. I know they were there through the thick and thin. The ones that unsubscribed, which was like over 100 in like 24 hours. And some may say, well, that's not a big deal. You know, you've got over 11,000 subscribers on there. It is a big deal, because when you have that many people unsubscribing from a YouTube channel, it really hurts your algorithm. It really tells YouTube, hey, something's going on here. We can't be promoting this channel in other people's feeds, because a lot of people are leaving. They're leaving negative comments. They're leaving a lot of thumbs down. They're unsubscribing, etc. Something's wrong here, and it really does hurt your algorithm. And yeah, it really did a number on the channel. And I thought, well, okay, well, then I guess maybe this was the right thing to do, because if that's what people want to do, and if the popularity of the channel has gone downhill, then so be it. So I went on for about 4 weeks doing a podcast, and again, the subscribers continued to go down. And I think just after that, I was a little bit discouraged, and I thought, you know what? Why am I doing these videos? Why am I doing them? And unfortunately, I am the first one to admit this. I was looking at those people, the fair weather YouTubers that want to be entertained. They were the ones that left, and they were the ones that unsubscribed. It wasn't the faithful YouTubers out there, the ones that have been following me for years. They were still there, and unfortunately, I let it get the better of me, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to do one more video, and I'm going to finalize things, just because I don't want to. I was really hurt, man. I was just so depressed. I'm like, how can they all unsubscribe from me like that after all these years? Until I realized, right, what are you doing? It's the fair weather YouTubers that are all unsubscribing. But anyway, I mean, I thought of that later on. So I made this video. It said, farewell, I'm done with this. And again, more subscribers dropped off, and more dropped off, and more dropped off. And then I just said, you know what? I don't want to do it. I don't want to do anything now. It was very discouraging. I'm like, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to do any videos. I don't want to do any podcasts. I just want to stay away from this. I almost did not even want to do this job anymore. It was that discouraging. So I went through a little bit of a time where I really felt sorry for myself. And I was receiving, through this time period, a lot of emails telling me how much they miss the videos. And this was like, I think, maybe 2-3 weeks after I had put up my final video. And I was just receiving a lot of feedback. We miss your videos, and these were coming from the people that really cared. These comments were coming from my faithful YouTubers that have been there with me right from the beginning, or at least for several years. And even the faithful ones that have been around for 6 or 7 months. They know my history. They know what I've been through. They know me, well, very, very intimately. Well, maybe not to that point, but you know what I mean. They know me intimately enough to know that, as they explained, that I come across to them as almost like a family member, a friend, even though they've never ever met me. And it was like losing a family member. It was like losing a friend when I decided not to do the videos anymore. And you know what? It really started to touch me that people really did care that much. And I just didn't realize it. I didn't realize it. So I made an announcement to restart the videos, but this time I thought I would do them a little bit shorter. I mean, some of those videos I was doing was like 2 hours, and then you had the Bible break in there and whatnot. And I had a lot of complaints. Oh, these videos are too long. I mean, I can't sit here and watch an entire 2-hour video, even though it's a simple process. Excuse me, just push stop, and the video stops. and you go back to it later, because when you go back to YouTube, it continues off where you left off. But I guess you need to explain that to some people. They don't understand that. So I decided to put out some shorter videos. And I started out, I made an announcement. Hey, guess what, guys? I'm going to start doing these again. I realize how much my faithful YouTubers really enjoy these videos, and I apologize if I let anybody down. I'm going to do things a little bit different and do a shorter format. And I had overwhelming positive response to that. People were so happy that I was continuing with the videos. And I've just been told by so many people that it is it's very therapeutic, the videos that I put out, because I just don't slap a video together and say, here I am, there I go, and here's the shipper, here's the receiver, and I'm going to fill up my truck at this truck stop and make a dumb joke or something. I actually share really what it's like. I even share how I'm feeling sometimes. I share what I'm dealing with. And I share God's beautiful scenery out there. And I like to add music in there. And when I do add a song in there, like the very last song, or should I say the last video I just put out, the last video is called The Sounds of Spring, which was me starting in Calgary, going to Lethbridge, and then making my way into Kent, Washington. Only about 45 minutes. To me, it still seemed like a very short video. But I guess other people really enjoyed it. I'm so used to making videos that are like 2 hours long. And the one song that I put in there, Mercy Me, beautiful, I thought this is a great song. Besides, I wanted to put that song in there for a special lady. Her name is Penny. She has been going through a lot of difficult things. She's been, I don't want to share a whole lot about her email that she sent me, but I just thought I would put something in there to lift her up, to let her know this is what God thinks of her. God sees her as beautiful, and she was made for so much more than all of this, and she needs to smile. And that's why I put that song in there, so I could lift her spirits and let her know how much God loves her. And but as that song plays, I always transition the scenery around me to change to the transitions in the song. Like when a chorus comes up, the scene will change, or something special comes up in the song, the riff changes. I change the scenery. I just don't play a song and just have whatever clips I want in there. Everything flows, and this is what's unique about what I do in my videos, and a lot of people notice that. So this is probably why a lot of people find those videos very therapeutic, because I mix a lot of some nice background music with God's beautiful scenery, and people really enjoy that. And I receive comments all the time. This is my weekend. This is my Saturday. This is my Sunday, where I can sit down and relax and forget about life for a while, forget about the chaos that's in the world, and watch one of these Trucker Ray videos. And if you're listening to the podcast, and you, for maybe the first time, and you've never seen my YouTube channel, just go to YouTube, search Trucker Ray, and you'll find the channel, Life on the Road with Yeshua and Trucker Ray. And search for that video, that one I was telling you about, The Sounds of Spring. And you'll get a real good idea of what I do on my videos. And there's two really good songs on there. There's a song from Mercy Me, as I mentioned, and another great song by Hawk Nelson called Words. Really, really, really good song, and yeah, worth listening to. But there was a point to all of this. I digress. I put out 3 videos and expected to have a really good response from it, and I've noticed that the viewership is literally a third of what it used to be. Even some of those videos being up for over a week. So I'm realizing, okay, well, maybe the dream is gone. It's just not the way it used to be. Those that are viewing are the faithful ones, and that's wonderful. I mean, that's okay. I don't mind that. So what I've decided to do is 1 week I will put out some kind of a video. I haven't set any length. It's going to be whatever length I choose. And then the following week I will do a podcast, and I'll just alternate it because I love being behind the mic. It's a lot of fun. And don't tell me you didn't hear that. I get to do all this on location, right out of the sleeper of the truck. So there you go, friends. We will continue the videos, and we will continue the podcast. All right, with that being said, let's get to our first email.
Mailbag. Mailbag.
And our first email of the show is from Jason, and he writes from Santa Clarita, California, and he says the following. It's been a while, but I thought it was time to touch base. Hope you are doing well. Every now and then something comes along with your videos that triggers a lot of thought and emotions on my part. This time, it was your farewell video from last week. I must admit I was quite sad to hear you were calling it quits, but I can fully sympathize and understand your reasoning. Then your change of heart and mind to continue on brought so much joy. Count me in as one of those who got a little depressed, then celebrated hearing you were coming back. I agree. Today's average viewer probably has a shorter attention span, so keeping them shorter makes sense. I think it will be easier for many to follow videos that are shorter, but just in case you do want to show more scenery, you know I'll watch every bit of it. It was never too long for me. He continues, okay, so another thing I have to comment about is your selection of songs in the farewell video. It really struck me hard what you played. The Alan Parsons Project song was one song my parents used to play on our summer vacation camping trips in NorCal during the late 70s and early 80s. Those were such great times and memories for me, and certain songs stick in the memory banks like that one. I purposely do not play them as to help preserve the memories I have of sitting in the back seat of that station wagon as a child, pulling the camper trailer behind while winding through the dense redwoods of California and Oregon. The best times of my childhood were then, innocent and uncomplicated. That song reminded of those times, but also added a splendid new memory, this time of Canada's great scenery. Then I couldn't help but think for days after what that song means to you and why you chose to play it when you did. There had to have been some reasoning or commonality. So I just wanted to get those things off my chest and thank you for putting the work and effort in. I know it must be frustrating at times, but you have to know there are people like me out there who appreciate every bit of it. Keep up the good work, and I truly thank you from the bottom of my heart for spreading joy, happiness, and helping create new memories. Sincerely, Jason. Wow, thank you, Jason. That is an amazing email, and I will say quickly that the choice of the songs in that video do mean a lot to me. There's reasoning behind all of it, but the one for the Alan Parsons Project, Eye in the Sky, it just reminds me of days when I was a teenager when I had not a care in the world.
This is the reality of trucking. It's the Trucker Ray Podcast.
Well, I'm kind of sitting here just enjoying the weather and enjoying a really good cup of coffee. I'll tell you something. For the drivers out there, I think you would agree with me that a lot of these truck stops, I guess sometimes the coffee's okay, but ever since they started making these machines that have the little canisters on the top where they have the beans inside and you just kind of brew it yourself, which makes sense. Then they don't have to brew the coffee. But I notice a lot of the truck stops, they still brew coffee. But those machines, if you've never tried them and you want a really solid, amazing, flavorful cup of coffee, you have to try those machines that brew your own coffee. It's like grinding it in your own truck. It's amazing, and it just tastes superb. All right, there you go. Well, friends, if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's get to a rant.
Rant or rave. Rant or rave.
Well, the rant I have for you this week, I think a lot of you drivers out there can empathize with me when I tell you about this. I normally don't like to mention names of truck stops that I go to, but it's a very good possibility. I doubt it highly, but you never know. Maybe somebody at their corporate office might hear this and realize what the heck is going on over there, and it really needs to be addressed. Not 24 hours ago, I was making my way through Nevada, and right up at the 93 I-15 junction in Apex. There is a Love's travel stop right there. And that's not one of my favorite places to go to because it is always really weird there when what you find along that street. There's a storage area right next door and a lot of very unseemly things are found there. I don't really even want to say it. What you find at on that road there, it's disgusting. That's all I can tell you. That's not even on the property. That's on the road. And I actually drove, because that's where we fuel now. We fuel at the Loves. So I pull in to the road there off of the 93, and I see a SUV parked on the side of the road, totally burnt to the ground, gutted, burnt, nothing left but the frame. And it's just kind of sitting there. And I'm like, oh, that's pleasing. For especially those that are visiting Las Vegas, they are going to stop there and get fuel, and they see that nice little welcome wagon sitting there. And it's like, oh, my goodness. I had to take a picture of it and send to a couple friends. I'm like, oh, welcome to the Loves over here in Apex. So I make my way into the Loves and I go up to the fueling lane, and the first thing I notice is there's garbage everywhere. There's garbage all over the parking lot. The water is brown. It's just disgusting. And you can hear on the intercom outside, normally when you hear there is a shower ready, blah, blah, blah. Well, here's a guy yelling over the intercom up there, with the truck in aisle 17, please move your truck. Somebody wants to leave. Here's another driver with no brains in his head that decided to park in the fueling lane, in front of the fueling lane. I guess he figures it's okay because he's ahead of the fueling lane. And he went in to go have a shower. And that's a common thing because people are just flat out too lazy to park their truck. So anyway, I do my fueling and I go inside, and I notice that things are a little bit dirty. I go over to the coffee bar to grab myself a coffee, and I'm noticing that the counters are filthy and the sinks are filthy, and I look up, the monitors are got something splattered on them, and I walk over to the sink to rinse out my cup, my coffee mug, and I'm noticing on the side, like the Loves has these lemonade or iced tea containers where they put that in there, and you can get yourself some cold beverages, like your iced tea or lemonade or whatever it is. And right on the side of it, I could just notice how filthy these machines were. And I started looking at all the other machines, and I couldn't believe, I don't think these machines have been cleaned in who knows how long. It was absolutely filthy in there. And I'm like, oh my goodness. I literally had to bathe in sanitizer when I got out of that place and went back to my truck. It just makes me wonder, what on earth is the management of that particular truck stop thinking? They cannot see how dirty that is. That when you're at the sink and you are rinsing out your mug, providing they use that sink to rinse out their rags when they wipe the counters down, you can't see how dirty that is. And I was going to bring it to someone's attention there, but the friendliness of the crew didn't seem very good. I had a feeling, just get out of there. Just get out of there. And I went back to my truck and I left a review on Google. I figured instead of telling them, which they probably won't do much about, leave it on Google, because corporate or the manager or the owner, someone's going to read that Google review and maybe they'll get on someone's case over there and clean that place up. Now, I know this doesn't seem like probably a very big deal to a lot of drivers. This is a normal thing. We see it all the time, especially in Canada. But the thing is, we shouldn't have to see this. Companies and owner-operators spend an insane amount of money at these truck stops, averaging around between $800 and $900 every time we put fuel in our trucks. Then we go inside and buy whatever we want inside and we leave. That's a lot of money that we bring into these truck stops. And we have to deal with filthy conditions like that? No, that shouldn't be like that. I'll give you an example. The Loves, that's over here in Rio Rico. Now, this place, you could eat off the floor. It is so clean in this place. And I went in there today, and they had Mexican music playing over the radio or over the intercom. And I told the guy, this is nice. I really love listening to this music. We're so close to the Mexican border. It's so fitting. I loved it. So I told them that. And then they were really, really grateful for that. And I said, this place is so clean. I hope it stays this way, because a lot of the time, truck stops just start to get neglected after time. He says, no, we're going to keep this place very clean. It's a pride and joy of ours, he said. And I went in and had a shower this morning. The showers are spotless. The display units, the coolers, the coffee machines, everything was very, very, very clean. And there was a girl actually wiping everything down when I was in there. And some of you might say, well, Ray, that is a brand new Loves. It's going to be clean. It's been around for a little bit now. I think it's been open for at least 6 months, and it still looks the same way as it did when it opened. So maybe I have a bit of a rant and a rave here. I'm raving about the Loves out here in Rio Rico, and I'm ranting about the Loves that is out there in Apex in northern Las Vegas. So hopefully they do something with that other location, because that other location, the one I was originally talking about, has been like that ever since I have started driving in the U.S., and that's been a few years now. So hopefully they get their act together. So there is my rant, and also a little bit of a rave.
Trucker Ray. Trucker Ray. Trucker Ray.
Well, from time to time, I like to check in with the opposite sex. What guy would not want to talk to a lovely lady? Especially the ladies of our industry and what they have to deal with out there. As a female truck driver, and ever since I started doing this podcast, there's one gal in particular I've been wanting to chat with on the broadcast. Her name is Susan. She's a lot of fun, and she's agreed to take the time out to talk with us. How you doing, Susan?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Well, I can't complain. I'm in the beautiful sunshine out here in Rio Rico. Hopefully you're enjoying some of this weather.
I am enjoying the weather. I'm out in Wyoming, and the sky is blue and the wind is calm, which is really nice for this time of year.
Wonderful. So where are you heading?
I am headed towards Salt Lake, Utah.
And that's your home terminal, right?
My home terminal is actually in Idaho Falls.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, why did I think it was in Utah? I think you did have one time you worked at a place out of Utah, or am I wrong on that?
My family lives in Utah, and I'm originally from Utah, but my terminal and where I work out of for the last couple of years has been Idaho.
Oh, okay. Right on. Yeah, you know what? I like Idaho. It's my favorite state. I mean, there's a lot of states in the U.S. that I love. They're beautiful, but for some reason, Idaho is a friendly state. People are always friendly. Even the DOT, when they pull you over, smile at you. So I don't mind it so much there. So let me ask you something, Susan. How long have you been driving truck?
I have been driving truck for 4 years now.
Oh, 4 years. So are you a mom? Do you have children?
Yes, I have 4 children and a daughter-in-law.
Okay. So how is your relationship now while you're on the road? Do you have a chance to communicate with them often? Do you see them a lot, or is it just kind of your time now while you're out there on the road?
A lot of it is my time while I'm on the road. I see them probably about once every 6 weeks for a day or two, but most of my communication is through the phone or FaceTime. Yeah,
that's a nice thing about technology and social media. It's easy to keep in contact with family and friends. So what's life been like out there on your own as a female truck driver? Do you enjoy what you do?
I absolutely enjoy what I do. This is a job that I never expected to do, but once I got into it, I fell in love with it, and it's definitely gotten into my blood.
Okay, so here's the big question. When you first started driving, you've been driving, what, 5 years, you said, or has it been longer?
4 years.
4 years. So what was your biggest challenge when you started driving? What is it you struggled with right at the beginning? Like some people struggle with backing up the trailer or even parking in a parking stall. But what was your biggest challenge?
It would be backing the trailer. That was definitely my Achilles heel. Is I would get so nervous that I was going to bump something that I would second guess every single move that I made.
I think that's kind of normal. When I first started driving, the company that I worked for had me backing into loading docks that were made for 5-ton trucks. But we had to squeeze a 53-foot trailer in there. That was probably some of the best training I ever had, but it was the most stressful time of my career. But it taught me how to back up a trailer, so I was happy with that. Being a female out there on the road, I'm assuming, do you have an animal? Do you have a dog?
Nope. No pets in my truck.
Some female drivers have dogs to keep them safe out there, but do you have any issue with that, or you just use common sense and park at places where you know it's going to be safe?
For the most part, it would be common sense. I do a lot of trip planning, and I've learned where to park and where not to park. But even then, there's always, you never know which loads you're going to get, and you end up places that you just don't know. But that's where common sense comes into play.
Right. Do you ever have a challenge out there about male drivers that some of them kind of look at female drivers as, I don't know, I'm trying to find the word for it. Maybe you can help me on this.
We'll just say pig-headed.
Yeah, or chauvinistic, or just discriminating against you because you're a female driver. Because back in the day, there were female truck drivers, but there's a lot more of them now.
For the most part, it is actually pretty smooth. I'd say in the last 4 years, there's only been 3 drivers that have actually pushed my buttons to the point where I was just like, you just need to go to Antarctica, stay there, and don't come back. Most of the men drivers I've encountered or, talked to, they've all been friendly, helpful, no issues.
So I would say a majority of your experiences out there have been pretty positive.
Yes. I know you were saying there's more and more females coming into the industry, and I've definitely seen that. But the longevity rate is a majority of them usually leave the industry in 6 months or less. I'm just going to say it. It is a man's industry, and there's a reason it's male dominant. And it is a hard job, and you have to have the tough skin, and you have to be ready to leave home, leave your friends, leave your social media life, and own the job.
Why do you think the women? Why do you think they get out of it after 6 months or so? Why do you think they do that? Because of all that stuff they're missing?
Yes, I think a large part of it is the stuff they're missing, but I think another part is they don't really understand what they're getting into. I know there's a lot more female and couple truckers on YouTube who display the happier side. This is the fun life. We get to see the country. This is the drama going on, but no big deal. And then people come in thinking that it literally is just kind of you're playing trucker. And there's a lot more to the job than that, especially when you take into account the safety, the hours, the miles, and some of the shippers and receivers and the equipment. It is hard work.
Is it what you expected it to be before you started driving, or is it totally different?
I kind of my dad drove, so I was a little bit aware of what the industry demanded. There were parts of it that intimidated me, but I just had to own it. I think aside from backing, the hours, getting used to 11-hour drive shifts, because I drive in the United States, was a bit of a challenge at first. And other drivers I've talked to, men and women, that is another big hindrance for them, is getting used to driving 11 hours.
Yes. I remember when I first started driving, I never even thought about this because actually it's not even on your mind. But when I first started driving, I was lucky if I could drive 5 hours without having to take a nap. I remember the very first company I worked for, I was given keys to a truck with very little training, and I had to take a load from Vancouver to Calgary. And I made it halfway to Sicamous, and I had to take a half an hour nap. I could not keep my eyes open. So you literally have to condition yourself, and that is something that you just don't expect that. Did you experience that?
I did to a point. The trainer I was with, let's just say, didn't have all his marbles, and my anxiety was so high I couldn't sleep. And so driving the 11-hour shift right out the gate, I was able to do, and I preferred to drive nights because there was one time I came out of the sleeper, and when you're watching the trainer fall asleep at the wheel, it kind of scares you pretty bad. And I was like, just let me drive. But then when I transitioned over to solo driving from team driving, I actually had to go back through the learning curve, and that's when the long hours actually were the hardest for me. And it was probably about 3 weeks before I was reconditioned.
I had a similar thing that happened to me when I was training. You know what? After that, I never teamed again. Never did would I ever allow anybody else to drive while I'm sleeping in the sleeper. I just can't sleep in the sleeper if somebody else is driving. I can't do it. I had the same issue. The trainer told me to lay down, relax, and I laid down, and I was laying down on the bunk, and my head was on the side where the passengers, and I could see the trainer dozing off. I'm like, do you want me to drive? No, I'm good. And I kind of just sit there again, drowse off a bit, then open my eyes. He's dozing off again. And I got back and I told the safety department, I went, listen, the guy was falling asleep at the wheel. He wouldn't let me drive. When I knew he was falling asleep, I couldn't even get any sleep. The guy snores like a banshee. I had literally had to sleep outside the truck one time because I couldn't sleep because he was snoring so loud. Thankfully, it was springtime, so it wasn't freezing out. I took my jacket, I put my safety jacket underneath my head, and I literally slept outside the truck. It was ridiculous. So did the training go well besides that? I mean, did you learn something, or did you basically learn what you know now by getting out there on the road yourself?
Well, I started with one of the mega carriers. I knew a little bit about the industry, but I didn't know a whole lot about the industry, and I'll just say I picked the wrong carrier to train with. I learned a lot of my information from YouTube or Google searches because my trainer really didn't train me very much at all.
So we got a couple more minutes here. What advice would you give a female out there looking to get into this industry? What advice would you give her?
To do the research, to understand how many hours we drive, how many miles we drive, and that it's just not about getting in a vehicle and driving. It's about maintaining the vehicle. It's like, are you willing to get under the hood and do your pre-trips? Are you willing to get in there and understand what brakes are and how to inspect them so you know that you're safe out there on the road? Do you know how to change a light bulb? I've encountered male drivers out there that don't know how to change the headlights on these trucks, and I'm kind of going, okay, it's not that hard. But are you willing to get in and do the hard work? Are you willing to clean out the trailers? Are you willing to drive in the middle of the night if you happen to have a 4 a.m. appointment scheduled? It's the research is critical. You know, it's like watching someone on YouTube is nice and it's fun and it gives you an idea of the better side of trucking. But do you understand the flip side?
Right. So basically, do your research, be prepared, have the right tools as well, and make sure you got everything that you should have in your jockey box, just in case you break down somewhere and you're not stranded on the side of a road somewhere. Make sure you have all your fluids, because sometimes you can blow a hose, and that hose can be tightened back up, but now you've lost all your fluids. Make sure you got extra stuff like that in there. I mean, you know, basic things like that. But I think that's some pretty solid advice there, Susan. Yeah, just to be prepared and do your research. Well, I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
This is the reality of trucking.
What am I doing?
It's the Trucker Ray Podcast. Mailbag. Mailbag.
All right, we're dipping into the bag once again. This one is from Andy, and he's from Davenport, Iowa, and he writes this email. I really enjoy your YouTube channel as well as your podcast. I found your content online while I was searching for a good driver's school to get my commercial driver's license. I will first say thank you for your videos. They have helped me immensely during my training. I am very new to the trucking industry and still learning a lot, but I do have a question I need help with, and it pertains to calculating and adjusting weight after picking up a load. Could you please walk us through this process on your podcast? This way I can listen to it over and over until I figure it out, he says, and he laughs. Thank you in advance for what you do. You have no idea how helpful you have been to myself and many others, I'm sure. God bless you, and I look forward to your productions. Thank you, Andy. Well, let me tell you, buddy, find a cat scale. Pull onto the cat scale. Pay for the cat scale. Go inside, receive ticket, you're done. All right, that's it. Next!
Ooh, he's a bad putty cat.
Oh, I'm just kidding, of course, Andy. You know what? You're actually very fortunate because you live very close to the Iowa 80 over there in Walcott. Because you're in Davenport, you're only east of that. I think a half an hour, maybe less. Go over to the Iowa 80 and grab yourself a Magna Stop if you haven't already. If you're not sure what it is, just go there and ask for a Magna Stop. This is going to help you to adjust your weights. You just put that little baby right inside the pins, and you can slide it one pin at a time if you really needed to. It's a real gem. I think they're about $75, but let me tell you something. They are absolutely worth it. All right, let's run through the process of what I do. Now, I'm assuming you are referring to weighing yourself possibly with a scale that just does your gross weight, because I think if you're talking about a regular scale that does all the axles, you wouldn't be asking this, because it will tell you on the scale ticket if you go to a cat scale. So say you're at a shipper and they have a scale that just does gross weight. Once you've loaded, drive up to the scale, put your steers on first, write that down on a notepad. Always have a notepad on you or in your truck. Then once you've done that, pull onto the scale with your steers and your drives and write that number down above. Just write that number down, what that weight is with the steers and the drives combined. So now let's get the weight of the drives. You pull out the calculator and put in the total amount that you just wrote down, but minus the amount of the steers, and that will give you your weight of your drives. So you've got now the steers, and now you have the drives weight. So now pull on the entire scale with your whole load and figure out what the weight of that is. Once you figure out that weight, now take that bigger number that had the steers and the drives combined and subtract that from the entire gross weight. And that'll tell you what your weight is on your trailer. And at the same time, don't forget to write down what the gross weight is. Now, if you figured all of that out, and let's just say, okay, I'm a little bit heavy on the drives, well, then you got to slide your trailer backwards, and some say slide the bogies forward, and that's where those little holes underneath next to the bogies are. And to know how much weight is being distributed every time you move one pin, you might want to ask your dispatch, because it depends on the trailer that you have. So yeah. Anyway, I hope that helps a little bit there, Andy. Go over to the Iowa 80 and grab yourself one of those Magnastops. You'll absolutely love them. It's a lot of the time you need two people to properly slide a trailer, especially if you're only going to move it one pin at a time, because you can just jump 3 or 4 pins at a time. So go grab that Magnastop. And no, I'm not getting nothing by telling you this. I stand by that product because it works so good. Anyway, there you go. Thanks again, Andy. Yes, it's that time again. It's time for Trucker's Corner.
With over 50 years of accident-free, long-haul experience under his belt, plus an extra 20 pounds. This is Trucker's Corner with Trucker Glen.
Hello, Mr. Trucker Glen. How are you doing today, sir?
I am wonderful, Mr. Ray. I'm great for an old guy, as I like to say.
Yeah? Are you enjoying some nice weather out there? Or are you guys stuck in the rain again out there in Aldergrove?
We have had torrential rains for the last 3 days. It's just terrible.
Wow, you're kidding. Well, I don't want to tell you what it looks like here up in Rio Rico in Arizona, but it's gorgeous.
You're always making fun of me that way, Ray.
It's beautiful up here. Hey, listen, I just spent the last week in Winnipeg where it was snowing, and I just got a notice on my phone that it says that there's a snowfall warning in progress over at Snoqualmie Pass in Washington. So winter is not over yet.
No, I don't think so.
No. But on to more pleasant things. What have you got for us today, sir?
I have got a topic that is especially for the new drivers that are listening in. You might have heard the expression before. It's just say no. When I was thinking about what I was going to talk about on this podcast, I just started thinking about my younger days in trucking, and boy, I got in a lot of trouble because I was easily intimidated by my boss and easily intimidated by my dispatcher, and it was it could have been a lot worse. But for those who are starting out, it's nice to know, like, number one, there's lots of trucking jobs around. So if you get working for somebody who either won't fix his equipment or gives you a bad load. For instance, I'll give you an example. I was sent to pick up a trailer going to Toronto from Surrey, BC. And I got there, and I don't know what they call it now. We used to call it pig iron. It's just, where they put the stakes in the side of the trailer, and then they put plywood sides on it.
Yeah. And
then they just fill it up with whatever they can up to weight, and it's usually up to sometimes even over top of the plywood. I had an 8.6 wide trailer, and the sides went in a V, so it was almost 10 feet wide at the top of the load, because these poor pipes were bent out and the load was pushing out on the plywood. And I said to the guy, "Where's my load?" He says, "Well, that's it right there." And I said, "Well, I wouldn't pull that across the street, let alone going down to Toronto, because it's not going to make it. You know how rough those roads are." Well, he said, "Everybody else hauls it like that." And I said, "Well, that's the guys you call then, because I'm not about to do it." So I phoned my boss, and of course he's trying to talk me into it. And I said, "Tell you what, I'll take it if you come with me." And of course he wouldn't. And I said, "No, I'm not taking the load, because I could see pieces falling off this trailer, and I doubt it would have made it past the first scale that I came to, because of the fact it was over width. It doesn't matter if it's over width at road level or 8'6" up, right? It's still an illegal load." And had I got to the scales, I'm the one that would have got the ticket for it, and I would have had to legalize the load before I left, or send another trailer up and unload it into that. So that's one situation. I've had other situations where I've taken a truck out or a trailer, and knew it wasn't safe. And because I was young and I was scared of losing my job, I got talked into taking it, and it was just misery the whole way. And, you know, you're dodging scales. I don't know if you can even dodge scales anymore, but you could in those days. And it's always been a heartache. You think, you know, after all is said and done, it's worth losing your job over rather than killing somebody or just going through all the stress of you know, it takes longer to get it to its destination because you're stopping and making adjustments. And, you know, I had a Super B load when Super Bs first came in, and I was hauling lead zinc ingots. Do you know what they are?
No. What is that?
The load's only about, it's lead, and it's into little, the same way they make gold bars. It's roughly the same thing, and the load's only about 2 feet off the deck. Beautiful loads to haul, but heavy. And I picked this trailer up in, I think it was Trail, coming down to Vancouver, and got to the Osoyoos brake check on the Anarchist Mountain, which is right on the USA border. And it's a pretty steep, windy hill. It's not bad. There's a 20-click corner in about the middle of it, and you get around that, you can pretty well do anything. So I set my brakes all up at the top, and down we go, and I'm not slowing down. And luckily, I had run that road for so many years that I knew every little twist and turn, and I thought, well, if I can get around that one corner, I can drive off into a orchard, because it was full of orchards on either side. Anyways, to make a long story short, I did get down. The trailer looked like it was on fire because the brakes were smoking so bad. And when I got down to the bottom, I got into town, and then you have to make a really sharp right-hand corner, and got it over to the truck stop. And I phoned the mechanic, and I said, what is with this trailer? I know you just did the brakes on it because I hauled it up from the coast. And he said, I told the boss not to send that trailer out like that. And I said, like what? He said, all the brake drums were cracked.
Oh.
So the more pressure you put on it, all it did was just push the drums out. It had no stop power.
Jeez.
So I phoned the boss up, got him out of bed, and I said, I'm leaving your trailer in Osoyoos here, and you're either going to have to redo the brakes or transfer the load. I'm just going to bobtail home. He said, you bobtail home, you're fired. I said, well, it's a little too late for that. I already quit. So, I mean, if that's the way they're going to do business, you don't want to run for them anyways. But, of course, I had a few years and a few miles under my belt that I didn't care if he fired me or not.
So he knew you. That was the crow's nest. You were going up Highway 3. He knew that, right, with that load?
Oh yeah. We had about from Trail, I think there's 5 mountain passes, and they're all really. Yeah. You know, you got to know what you're doing when you're driving those, especially with those heavy weights. And
he knew that, and he still sent you with that trailer.
The mechanic said he told him the brake drums were cracked, and I think that was from heating them up too bad.
Yeah.
Obviously from abuse, right? And the guy said, just put new brake shoes on them and send them out.
Wow.
And so the mechanic should have said no, because for obvious reasons, somebody could have been killed.
No kidding.
You know, you get that amount, you get 140,000 pounds coming down the mountain, and somebody gets in your way, they're just a grease spot on the road. So you got to weigh all this stuff out. The same as if you're out of your hours. If your dispatch is forcing you to take the load out because somebody made a mistake and the customer's mad at the dispatch or the owner, and they got to get the load there, or, you know, they're not going to get any more work out of them, and they lay it onto the truck driver. Well, guess what? You have an accident, and number one, the company has no insurance on their vehicle because it's not supposed to be on the road with this particular driver. But the accident is automatically your fault. It doesn't matter if somebody T-bones you, it's still your fault because you're not supposed to be there. You're supposed to be off.
You know, that's the sad thing about this forced dispatch, and people, that's what we're talking about right now. Just say no to dispatchers, and Jesse's out insane demands that they try to get drivers to do. As soon as you get into that truck, you're responsible for the truck and the trailer. And yeah, I guess you really have to have the kahunas to say, no, I'm not doing that, and even risk the chance of losing your job like I almost did with the very first company I ever drove for. There was a few things I did not like about what was going on. My tires on my truck were almost bald, but they still told me to go out. I didn't know whether I had any rights. So, yeah.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing was, and I think I mentioned this last broadcast, the police and the scales right now in today's day and age are the driver's best friend. Unless you're doing something absolutely insane that you're not supposed to be doing, then that's your fault. But I said before, I've pulled in the scales. Hey, I need a level 1. The boss won't fix the truck. And I've had them ground the whole unit right on the spot because it was so unsafe. And again, I talked to an RCMP officer who attended an accident, and that's when the logbooks were still in effect. And the guy had lied on his logbooks. And they went back a full year on this guy's logbooks.
Wow.
And he said, He isn't even supposed to be here. He's supposed to be like 300 miles away, according to his logbook. So he automatically, I think what it was is he rear-ended a whole bunch of cars in one of the tunnels on the top of the Rogers.
Wow.
And he got blamed for the entire accident because, like the police said, he wasn't supposed to even be there. So this is what you're up against. Like you do not have a leg to stand on if you are doing something you're not supposed to do. And I think I told you before that airline pilots aren't as regulated as what the driving industry is. And it's getting worse and worse and worse because, you know yourself, you've seen all the truck accidents or heard about all the truck accidents in British Columbia because guys aren't paying attention and they're in places they shouldn't be. You need to, you start right from the beginning. You're going to do it professionally. If you even feel a little bit anxious about it, what should I be doing or shouldn't, it's best just to go back to square one and say, well, there's bald tires on this and it's supposed to snow tonight. I'm not going.
So let me ask you something. What is a brand new driver when they get hired onto a company? How do they deal with that? How do they deal with a dispatch that's a forced dispatch like that? I mean, the first thing they're going to think about is this is their first job. And they feel like they don't have any rights and they're worried about getting fired. Because if you get fired, then who's going to hire me now? I just got hired and now I'm going to get fired. What would you recommend that they do, like in this situation?
Well, I would say that if the company has an HR department, that's the first place you should go to is your safety. Whoever's in charge of safety with the company. A lot of these companies don't have HR in their business. And you're just strictly dealing with the boss and the dispatcher. But one of the trucking companies here who is got a very bad reputation does have an HR. And they were caught getting these guys, well, you listen to your dispatch, you go, or, it's not as bad as what you're saying it is, and you go, and they had an accident. And, of course, the truck wasn't in the shape it should have been in. So I would say just bite the bullet and like you say, you got especially if you're 20 years old, you got your whole life ahead of you. And if you can imagine killing a school bus full of kids because your equipment isn't where it should be or your load falls off the truck, a lot of it has to do with improper training. These new guys are not trained properly. They're not told that, this is what you do if it's unsafe.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
Well, we got 30 seconds there, Glenn. So I would say, what would you think? Like if you see a situation like that, everyone's got a phone, take pictures, take video, especially if there's, a vehicle that is not safe. Protect yourself. Get some evidence, video and pictures.
Oh, by all means. Yeah. Take pictures of your equipment, of the load, of the whole entire of your well, I guess you've got Qualicoms now. You don't have logbooks anymore, but phone an RCMP officer.
Yeah,
just say, hey, this is what they want me to do. Okay. And once a company is in the system, they're red flagged, and the police and the scales start paying attention to them because they're flagged when they come across a scale. Hey, this is what they're trying to do. And I know that for a fact because I've got pulled into the scales and I said, well, how come you're pulling me in? I'm empty. I've got no, but we're going to check your truck over because this company has got a bad reputation. So, like I say, they can be your best friends, and if they're not, you're doing something wrong.
Great final thought there, my friend. We are out of time. Thank you, Trucker Glen, for another fantastic episode.
Okay, Ray, and you stay safe in that warm sunshine, and don't get too sunburned.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see you next time. And if you would like to get an email to Trucker Glen for a future Trucker's Corner, you can send your emails to truckerglen10@gmail.com. That's truckerglen, the number 10 at gmail.com. Well, friends, that is a wrap. We are out of here. A big thank you to Jason and Andy for sending in their emails, and for Susan for joining me on the program. Be sure to subscribe to your favorite podcast provider and don't miss one single episode. Lord willing, we'll do this again next time. Bye for now.
You've been listening to the Trucker Ray Podcast. To contact Trucker Ray, send him an email to truckerray7@gmail.com. That's truckerray, the number 7, @gmail.com. You can also check out his YouTube channel. Open YouTube in your browser and search Trucker Ray. It's that simple. Until next time, be safe out there.